Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia, and today it is time for my June TBR, and I am so excited. I am really psyched about this TBR, and every month I'm so excited, right, about whatever I have planned. But for some reason, this particular batch, these are just the books that I am so eager to get into. And then I have so many more on my cart and things that are starting to come in at the library that I cannot possibly go wrong. If there's anything that doesn't live up to my expectations and step it up, then, shuffle on off because I have plenty more to pick from. Yeah, so that's how I'm starting my TBR, by threatening to replace the books in my TBR with some other books. Okay, maybe we should just focus at the task at hand. These books that I say I'm so excited to read, they haven't let me down yet. Boy, I think I set a new record for digressing and getting off the track here, but okay. I'm going to calm down now and talk to you about my actual June TBR. The main booktube event that I'm participating in this month is Pride Month reading. It is Pride Month. June is Pride Month in the United States, and I am celebrating and observing that by reading a number of books by LGBTQ authors. Last year, I had this huge list, and it was more like a mountain of maybes. I went and collected a whole bunch of books that I had read reviews of, or things that had won various awards. And I don't know, there was a million books, and I wasn't sure which ones I was actually going to read, but I just put them all in the lineup so that I could think about them and viewers could think about them. This year, this is a more curated list. These are books that I've been thinking about for a while and kind of gradually putting together this TBR. So these are ones I actually feel solid about reading, that I've been waiting to read for a while. So a little bit different approach. And the first few books in the list are kind of a little sort of a 20th century classics section of this TBR. And it was just kind of by accident because I came upon them one by one, but then I was like, oh, there's kind of like this nice little mid-century situation going on here. The first one is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. And fear not, this is not The Talented Mr. Ripley. This is 3 novels, including The Talented Mr. Ripley. This is a library book. It's an Everyman's Library that has the first 3 Ripley stories. I don't know how many Ripley novels there are. 4 or 5, I think. I became interested in this story when I saw the movie originally back in, what was that, like 1989 or something? I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember what year it was. No, that can't be. It had 1999. It wasn't in the, when was it? Okay, I don't know. I'll put the year up there. The old one with Matt Damon and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jude Law. Okay, so that edition, that version of The Talented Mr. Ripley. And then more recently, the new Netflix production of Ripley, which is absolutely stunning. I've already talked about it. It's so beautiful, and it's really creepy and wonderful. And that, again, reminded me that I have not read anything by Patricia Highsmith. So Michael Clark and I are going to buddy read The Talented Mr. Ripley because we both just saw the show. We can compare this 1955 novel with the film versions that we've seen of it, and just see what there is to find in here. And I'm not going to read the introduction because I think it covers all 3 of these novels, and what if I decide I want to read them? So you know how I am. Introductions are to be read as afterwards. All right, the next book is also from that mid-century collection, and this also happens to be a buddy read with Michael Clark. And this is kind of in our line of reading books that are middle grade and young adult that we're either reading or rereading. We are both former school librarians, and we're going to read Harriet the Spy by Louise Fitzhugh. It's a reread, and I was thinking of Harriet the Spy when we recently read When You Reach Me, which was set in the 70s, and the main character in that story is just relentlessly reading and rereading A Wrinkle in Time, and she carries it around with her everywhere. And at one point, her teacher is trying to entice her to try a different book, and she says something like, he put a book down on my desk, and it had a picture of a spunky looking girl walking in front of some buildings. It had to, she didn't say it was Harriet the Spy, but it had to be. Harriet the Spy was published in 1964. I read it in the 70s as a kid. I read it multiple times. I liked it a lot. And I think I might have read it once as an adult, and I can't remember what I thought. So I have to do it again and see how the story holds up. But it's about a girl. She kind of is a self-designed spy, and she observes everything. She eavesdrops on everything, and she keeps notes about this in a notebook. And they're not entirely flattering observations. And eventually something happens. So that's about all I remember. I remember liking Harriet, but thinking that she played a dangerous game. We'll see how it fares in my revival, and I need to learn a little bit more about Louise Fitzhugh. I don't know a lot of biographical information about her, but I know that I read Harriet the Spy a bunch of times when I was a kid, and once or twice I read the sequel, The Long Secret. I'm pretty sure that was a sequel. Was that just another book? Was it? Oh, I don't know. Don't you love it when I get on here having done little to no preparation? Okay, the final in my trio of mid-century classics written by lesbian authors. We have Rubyfruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Now this is a book I've been aware of for decades. I've seen this book. This is so funny that the library's copy is this old mass market paperback. But I've seen this edition of this book floating around since I was a kid. And I think as a kid, it just didn't look like anything I'd be interested in. And then as an adult, I associated Rita Mae Brown with that series she has that are like cozy mysteries with a cat and something about a pie. Well, it's not the literary pie, it's a sneaky pie. Something about a pie and a cat. And it just didn't look like my kind of thing. But then I started hearing just recently, in the past year or two, people talking about discovering Rubyfruit Jungle, which was published in 1973, and how much they enjoyed it and that it was so funny. It's about a young woman, but I guess she gets kicked out of college for being unapologetic about being a lesbian, and then she hits New York City. So it sounds like a fun coming of age story, and I'm kind of there for those 60s or 70s vibes as well. And so I'm looking forward to reading this. It just, I keep hearing about how funny it is. And so I think it's good to put a little bit of funny into every TBR. Another book that I would love to put in this TBR, but I don't think it's going to fit in this month on the topic of things that are funny, although it's probably funny sad, is The Guncle Abroad. Because last year I read The Guncle I think I did read it in June as a Pride read, and that one now has a sequel in which the main characters, I think, go to Europe, and I'm really looking forward to reading it, but my library doesn't have it yet. It's acquiring, so I don't think it's going to make this TBR, but I think it will probably be poignant and funny like the first one, and I will read it this summer when I get my hands on it. But so that's sort of, I just throwing that in there. It's not officially part of my TBR, but it's just a book coming up that I want to read, and it would be a great Pride Month selection if it's available where you are and you want to try it out, but you got to read The Guncle first. Okay, I can tell I'm excited because I'm talking faster and faster, so I'm going to try to chill it out a little bit. Just chill out. Chillax. Okay, so we're moving into some more contemporary, some recent releases that are also part of my Pride Month TBR. This one's another buddy read. So it's Michael again. And we didn't say, oh, let's just read a million books together this month, but it just kind of worked out that way because there was various books that we were both, just the timing and things that we wanted to save for June, and then we both wanted to read it, so why not read it together? So we're going to read Blackouts by Justin Torres, and the light is catching this in funny ways. I've talked about this book a couple of times because I did get to hear Justin Torres talk at the San Antonio Book Festival. I found him to be fascinating and delightful, and it made me even more excited to read this book that I guess was inspired by a work about, it was a work that it turned out to be a work about what was called sexual deviance. But the participants in the study thought that it was going to be this landmark work about homosexual couples and their lives, and they thought it was going to be one thing, and then it sort of got hijacked and turned into something else. And this idea of people being redacted or censored or pushed into a different path, that kind of lays a backdrop, I believe, to what happens in this novel. And there's a lot of you kind of have to have a print copy of it, because there's a lot of parts that use redacted texts and photos and pictures and artwork. It's experimental. I can't really comment much about the plot because I don't quite have my head wrapped around it, but it has to do with two men in a strange space reflecting on some of these themes. And so I'll just talk about it when we get to it. I think we're going to read it. I think this one and Harriet the Spy are kind of coming up at the beginning of the month, and then some of these others are going to happen later on throughout the month. Also at the San Antonio Book Festival, I was able to hear Myriam Gurba, who is the author of Creep. I talked about this book a couple of times in my book haul and when I went to the festival. This is a collection of essays. So this is my nonfiction book of the month, and also is in my Pride lineup. Myriam Gurba is a bisexual author, and I'm going to read them out of order because I want to read that blast about American Dirt first, and then I'll go back and read the rest of her articles as well, her essays, and then I will let you know what I think about it all. I've heard some really excellent reviews on BookTube from different people whose opinions I do trust, so I'm looking forward to reading this for myself. And then another new release that I just cannot wait to read this is Long Island by Colm Toibin. It is the sequel to Brooklyn. It takes place, I think, about 20 years later. I loved Brooklyn last year, and so I guess now I am vindicated for waiting so long to read Brooklyn, because now the sequel just magically has appeared for me just months after having read the first book, and everybody else had to wait and wait and wait. So it turned out okay. But this, just reading the blurb, it's Eilish and Tony are now in their 40s. It is the mid 70s, and at the beginning of this book, a shocking revelation happens, just kind of comes to her doorstep, and I think she's going to make a trip back to Ireland in part of this novel. And so we're just going to revisit these characters. I don't know. I didn't want to read too much about it, and it's not very thick, and I want to savor it, so I don't want to know too much about it. So, but I'm really excited to read Long Island. Next, there's a couple of group reads that were not officially developed as Pride reading, but they double dip. And first of all, we have Oh Pioneers by Willa Cather. And again, fear not, this is a gigantic thing. I got this at a thrift store for like $2. It has 3 novels and a bunch of stories in it, and Oh Pioneers is one of them. I've read a couple of Willa Cather's short stories, and I've read My Antonia, and so I've been wanting to read another novel. Melinda, Web of Stories, Discord, there is a group read of Oh Pioneers that starts later in the month. I think it starts on June 19th. So there's plenty of time if you want to participate, and I will put a link to her channel below. You can go through there to get to the Discord, and it's everybody is welcome to join in the discussion of Oh Pioneers that is coming up later this month. And that I don't think this would count for June on the Range. If June could kind of be on the prairie, because I don't think this is Western, but if it is, then I'm doing June on the Range as well. Then it makes it a triple dipper. And then finally, I'm not holding up a collection of Shakespeare here, but we're the Bard Room discussion, which is an ongoing monthly discussion of the plays of William Shakespeare, also on Melinda's Discord in the section called the Bard Room. Did I just say that twice? I don't know. But anyway, the June play is Love's Labour's Lost. So I am happy that we're doing a comedy this month, and I'm really looking forward to that, because I think I maybe have not read that play. but I can't remember. I think I may have seen it, but maybe I've never read it. I think that starts at any point in the month. Well, I think I'll just read that alongside some of these other ones. I haven't quite figured out my pairings. You know, I can read two at a time, and after that I sort of implode. So I got to figure out what will work with what to get through this rather ambitious list that is not quite finished. I requested a library book, and it was one of those cases. There's a lot of books I want to read, and I think, no, don't request it, because you don't have time right now. But I couldn't help it. So I think it's going to come in, and then I want to read it. And it's called The First State of Being by Erin and Entrada Kelly. A couple of my bookish friends have read this recently and really liked it. And it's a middle grade time travel novel that takes place in the past, the 80s or something like that. A lot of things that I love were combined together, and I have to read it, and I don't want to wait. There's still more. My band book club at the library, the June selection is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen, how do you say his last name? Chbosky? And I've never read it. I've seen the movie. I've never read the book. They selected a young adult book for June in case, so school will be out in case any younger teen readers want to join the group for this. The group skews a little bit on the older side, but we do sometimes read a young adult book. So The Perks of Being a Wallflower is the selection, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And it's been long enough since I saw the movie that I don't remember all the details. I'm still doing the Ben Reads Good challenge. If you notice a little editing jump there, yes, I did get stuck saying that. And I'm going to read Lincoln in the Bardo, because the category for June is like at the Hall of Shame, the book that you've always meant to read and you have never read it, and everybody's read it except you. So I'm finally going to read Lincoln in the Bardo, and I know that I need to at least try the audio version alongside it. Message received. I've heard about that so many times. I believe you. I believe you all. And even though I don't do audiobooks, I am going to at least sample it as I start the book so I can hear this production and these different voices, and maybe it will help establish it and get it going for me, and it'll just be an adventure. So I am going to try that, and I will report back on how it goes. Have you noticed that as I get further and further and the video gets longer and longer, I just stopped even describing the books of what they're about? This one sounds, it does sound pretty weird. And it has to do with President Lincoln making visits to the crypt to visit and talk to his young son who has recently passed away. And I think the Bardo is like a limbo, right? Between life and death. And I guess there's ghosts, and that's it. That's all I know. It's supposed to be great. It's supposed to be weird. Can't wait to read it. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But guess what? I put my name back in to participate in the semifinals of the BookTube prize. So coming up in a few days, I may be getting an assignment of 6 books to read in June and July to judge. And I may or may not have read some or all or any of those 6 books. If history bears out, I will have read some of them, but not all of them, so they will have to be added into the mix. I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be beating the heat indoors with my books. So let me know what you have read from my TBR, or anything in there that you would like to read, or something that you are really anticipating reading. Also for June, what events are you participating in? I want to hear all the good stuff. Let me know in the comments, and I will be back. I'm going to do a tag on Tuesday. I'm going to look through all of my not yet done tags and pick out something to do on Tuesday. So until then, I hope that you're having a great weekend still, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.